Hello, everyone. This is Chieh Suang. Hello, I see some friends like Vince. This is what I'm going to talk about today, like about scaling your startup. So this is who I am. I'm actually the VEC and PE practice lead at Oracle Netsuite. I'm also a board member of Lyra Ventures, which is a global retail venture fund based out of Singapore. And I actually, before Oracle Netsuite, I did spend more than 60 years in VC, working with a lot of startup, right? So for today, I have quite a long slide, friends at Gmasis, please tell me if I need to shorten my presentation. But I thought maybe first thing, let's talk about when is the right time to start up. What are some of the challenges, and we can talk to a little bit about Netsuite, because I saw that there was a what they call that video, so you probably have an idea what Netsuite is about, right? So I think maybe a lot of times, like for in the startup world, we are struggling with so many things, right? And when is actually the right time to scale? So maybe that's one of the first question you want to ask as you go on your journey. So in the beginning, maybe there's just 2 of you or 5 of you coming together to work on a product, right? So I think the question that you really want to ask yourself is if you have the right product market fit, right? So is your product ready to be sold like to many clients, or like every client you are customizing your solution a lot? Then that's actually not, I think then you don't really have a product market fit yet at that point in time. So I think one of the first questions you ask yourself is, do I have a product market fit? Can I sell the same solution or product to many clients, right? And then is there a lot of unfulfilled demand? Like I have a lot of people asking for the same services, right? Maybe you're a HR company, or like you're selling a SaaS HR solution, and then like I have proved it with 10 clients and I can see like the next 100 clients that are coming. Then I think that's maybe time to start thinking about how do I now sell, instead of selling to 10 customer in 3 months, sell to 100 customer in a week, right? So I think that's the first thing that you really need to ascertain. Right. And then the other thing is also like, maybe for different kind of business like retail, you may have a product, you have an e-commerce, and then you have your website and you start to have a lot of sales, a lot of orders, right? But you're also spending a lot of money on marketing. So how do you know that it's time to spend even, because scaling sometimes also means spending more money, right? So do I put down another 200,000 on marketing, right? When is the time to make decisions? So one thing is, I hope you guys will be familiar with this term called unit economic, right? So not only you're measuring your financial number from revenue, EBITDA, gross profit, but you really know every order that I make, that I get from my customer, am I profitable, right? If I spend $10 to acquire one client, does it make sense? How long before I can be profitable? And that different business line, this number will change. Like for an enterprise, for people selling to enterprise, our cost of acquisition should consist of, the cost of your salespeople, maybe you have to wine and dine your client, you have to run webinar like how Gmasis is doing it now, so what are all these costs and how much does it take? Are you at the moment unit economic positive or not? If not, then you run the risk of, every order that you make, the more order you make, the more money you lose, right? So I think be careful about that. So maybe 2 or 3 years ago, all of us just raised a lot of VC money and we just ran and go for growth numbers. Maybe it's GMV growth or order growth. but then you will realize that a lot of clients that come to your website or buy your things because of huge discount, they are not loyal and they are not the right customer that you want to acquire, right? To scale up with you. So you want to make sure that you get that right. That maybe in the beginning you're targeting all sorts of segment because we don't know which is the right segment, right? So when you're unit economic positive, then I think you probably have thought through a lot of this. You have figured out like, okay, I really want to go after this group of very loyal customers because they are the most profitable. Or it makes sense for me to just focus and grow in this space, right? So I think if you have that kind of things, then I think, or at least truly in your gut, then I actually think you're ready to scale to the next level. And when you're talking about scaling, it's not like, oh, from 10 customer, now I want to scale to 20 customer. Okay, that's some sort of a scaling, but it's about 10x, right? Like how from maybe 100 customer, how can I go to 1,000 customer, right? So this is the things that you have to really run through in your mind. I wish this is more interactive. I think y'all can start leaving questions, comments in the chat, and once I will go and check and also like answer to your question, right? Because it's hard for me to just pinpoint, just because it depends on whether you're B2C business, your SaaS, or retail, right? All of you will have a different definition of right product market fit, unit economics in specific item that you should measure, right? Then maybe the last one was also like I saw a lot of sort of retail business that was like venture back that was scaling a lot in the last 2 years. So maybe your coffee chain, how do you decide that now I can grow from 3 coffee chain outlet to like 20 outlets, for example, right? So I think again it's back to like really measuring your numbers very closely. And I know, okay, if I invest 100K per store, I break even in 4 months maybe, right? And this is how much I need to invest for every store, right? You have that model in your mind, or and usually it's not in your mind. Usually you have to look at the numbers, at the reality, and then I think that's the time we are ready to scale. It's not just like, oh, that's like this one I see a lot. I haven't seen a lot in Vietnam, but say for it, some startup in Indonesia, right? They'll come and tell me, ChiehSuang is 250 million people. If we get 1%, well, that's too fluffy. You cannot put a lot of investment dollar to scale up just because of all these macro numbers. That one, maybe it will give you a thesis to like, I want to build this solution because I want to address this big market, right? But you really need to work through the nitty-gritty and have a period of time where you're really, really finding that product market fit, that first 10 customer, that first 100 customer, and then decide, okay, I know how to get the first 100. This is how we did it. How much marketing dollars we spend, how we tell our story. This is what they buy. This is what they like about our product. This is what they don't like our product. Now we are ready to go to the next 1,000 customer, or like, even 10,000 customer, right? So I think this part, keep it in mind, whichever stage you are now, run through your head. Like, what do you really know? And then are you ready to 10x from your current state, right? Maybe you're already at 5,000 customers. So how do you get to the 50,000 customer, right? So we're talking about 10x, right? And then what are the challenges you face when you scale, right? Because scaling a startup is a very messy. I mean, if I'm suspecting a lot of you in the audience are founders, so like the process is, you have 3 founders. Then you build some product team because we need a product, then suddenly, we have some growth, and then maybe we keep scaling our sales and marketing team, then because we hire so many people and we have so many finance or like HR issue, we need to do payroll, we need to do invoicing, and we need all this admin person, right? So a lot of times the whole process is very, very messy, right? And then, and then what you want to ask yourself also as you scale, is, do you have the right talent? Do you have the right kind of people, right? And what is the right talent? The truth is, I was thinking through, and I think really there is no one right talent that's like, oh, at this stage I should have this very specific talent. In my mind, the best talent for startup are usually the people who are very open-minded, open to learn new things, because in a startup journey there is just too much that we have to learn, as founders, as leaders, as investors, and as the team themselves, right? So like, do ask yourself the question a lot. Do you have the right talent who can grow with the company, right? So I've also seen like some very brilliant startup executive now. Some of them are really very senior now, but they actually really started as intern. They were just given, they just like very self-initiated and took a lot of initiatives to keep learning and grow with the company, right? They are also like and this growing the company in terms of mindset is so important, not just for the talent you're hiring, but for the founders themselves. Are you growing as a founder, right? From a person who can manage a team of 10 to a person who can manage a team of 100 to a person who can manage a team of 1,000 people. The skill required at each stage is very, very different. Or I've also, so in my first 2 years of career, because I worked with a very early stage company in Singapore, then I realized that all of them get stuck about maybe 2 million in revenue, about 50 people team. And the issue is because the founders themselves become the bottleneck, right? They don't know how to scale. We don't have that kind of talent. And then when the first time I went to US, I realized that, a lot of the founders have done like 4 startups before, some successful, some not successful, some very mediocre. But in that process, they have learned multiple times, and they've been part of multiple teams that have scaled significantly, right? So this scaling process, you need to also be, looking out for the right people who know how to learn a lot, and also how to organize things as you scale, right? So in the beginning, we need a lot of people with a lot of initiative, but as things move, you actually need people who know how to organize teams, maybe sales, building the right sales process, so this is like managing people. And so you need a lot more middle management with very good people skill, right? And of course, like at the top, the founders, like, do not be afraid to hire people that are much better than you, for example. So because like a lot of times, for example, I see that, people don't hire, like, people just rather hire a bookkeeper, a cheap bookkeeper, versus like a very well-versed finance leader, just because they tend to be a little bit more pricey maybe. But having said that, you sometimes want somebody from who has experience from a bigger company, so that they can see in 2 years' time, this is how the organization should look like, and start planning for that, right? So I think these are the questions that you need to think about, right? Who else do we need to hire? So a lot of times I know, like, there are very good HR agency out there, but I think the really best talent tend to be the ones that, where the senior leaders, founders really take a very active role to recruit, right? You see a gap in, like, okay, I want to go to Indonesia in 2 years, right? How can I start learning about the Indonesia market in my space, for example, right? So I might hire like a young Indonesian into my marketing team, and start, also getting more knowledge from that market. I might hire like somebody who has a regional experience ahead, so that we are already thinking, and she can help to build the team that you will need in 2 years or 3 years time, right? So I guess these are the key points that I hope you guys will think about, right? So in fact, I think in startup that scale very quickly, there's never enough like resources. But having said that, always think ahead, like in 2 or 3 years time, how should my organization look like? Where are the gaps? Like who can come in and help me scale this company faster, right? It might be operation, because we have found, like, know yourself, right? So for example, I am a person that has a lot of ideas, quite creative, but I'm not very good with very, very minute details, right? So if I'm a founder, I'm definitely looking for a co-founder or like a COO the moment I need to scale up, right? So I think do give this a lot of consideration, right? And then, like this in startup, almost everything is experiment, if you ask me. So we are always trying and testing out, if this new thing is gonna work, if we add this feature, can we upsell it to our clients? Will it make it more sticky, right? Yet at the same time, once something works, you need to have a process, right? So like in the beginning, so we had a small team, just 10 of us. We built the product together. We go out and talk to the customer. We know everyone in our clients' organization by name. We know exactly what they need, but this cannot scale, right? So once like you have that core product, and then you understand that, in the beginning, this is what they need us for, this is the kind of companies they need, then what is the process that you can build to scale this up, right? So like marketing will be one of them, right? Like a sales pipeline. How do I like build a sales organization to support my growth? Right, somebody has to monitor the pipeline. How do I reach out to all these 10,000 customers that has the right has similar profile to my current client? But if in the first 10 client you got it because through connection, through calling, but how do I do it for 10,000 people, right? 10,000 other companies. So this is where like the process building part is very important. Right, so you need both the talent that can continue to experiment, right? Because this is very important when you build new market segment, new product feature, and etc. But you also need the team who can think in a process manner, right? Like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Yeah, can you hear me? Should I continue? Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so then the other thing that I think, is all very related is, are you measuring the right KPI to growth, right? So, if you remember in the beginning when I said, when's the right time to scale? Like if you're not measuring your financial, your transaction data, or like your unit economics, and you don't know if you're profitable, not profitable, are you collecting money or not collecting money, then I actually think you won't be able to grow very well. Even if you have managed to raise a lot of VC money, I think the growth is not going to be like, hockey stick, right? Yeah. So maybe the only exception is, you build some app and somehow you put it on the Apple Store or something, and then it become like super viral, right? Which is, I think, more rare. A lot rarer than you think. Like even if you are doing like lipstick sales or whatever, you really need to measure like all the different channel and what can be viral, and what is the cost to make it viral, for example. It's not as simple as that. So like, I think making sure you are measuring the right KPI will also help you to grow, right? Yeah. Yeah, so these are things that I think even in your sleep, roughly you should have a sense as a founder, as a leader, right? That I mean, I know some of the founders I met are very technical, and they are trained. I'm trained as an engineer, but over the years, you just need to have a gut feel about all this. Even if you have a very strong finance team helping you with all this, you should know it. This is how we look like, right? And I think I missed out one, which is how much cash in bank I have. So how much cash flow I have, and how much longer can we operate, right? And what are the trade-offs? So I have 1 million in my bank, and that's when, like, knowing all this KPI, having a vision, and then you will come to a few options, right? Okay, if I hire 5 more of this kind of super sales, this is how much it cost me. And not all of them going to work out, right? So you have to build in all this probability. Or do I use this instead on online marketing or whatever, right? So having that numbers in your head is quite important. Yeah. Then yeah, I think we already talked about the process, right? So everything's going to be messy. I've seen like startup that open one other new warehouse every other month, and at the end of every month, the warehouse manager just sends like Excel to do claims, and that's not very, very good because you cannot control the cost, right? So as things scale, you also, as much as like, it shouldn't be bureaucratic. So it's not like, every single small things need like approval from the CEO, because the companies then cannot move, but you do need to set up processes, right? Yeah. So if everything is on like 10 different system, right? So like, how can we make it such that it's easy for all the different teams to work together, right? So, and there's no right or wrong process as well, and process will change it might be as much as every 9 or 12 months, right? If a company is growing so rapidly, right? This is the right process for this 6 months, and then suddenly we are now at 2,000 people company, and we do need to change our system if we want to become a 20,000 people company, for example, right? So I think it's constantly reviewing your process, right? And then making sure like everything is auditable, right? So if in the previous one is things are not necessarily always auditable, right? And as you grow and scale, especially if your intention is to raise funds and get a lot of investors to come into your company, then you need to make sure you have very good auditable process, right? So the investors come and look and say, okay, you said you did 10,000 sales order last month. How can I know that it is true, right? It was not just a make-up number. So this has been some issue in some of the companies like Zilingo in the last 1.5 months, right? 1.5 years, where investors are saying like, where did the money we invested go to, right? So you want to really avoid that, right? And once you have the right process, I think you want to talk about right system. Of course, here I know I'm just using Netsuite as an example, but there are many systems out there. So I feel like, and you got to choose one system that can work with you and can scale with you, right? So, I think if you want to learn more about Netsuite, like you could, talk to our friends at Gemesis, but basically a good system, an example of a good system, Netsuite, like, will give you like financial dashboard, right? So all the things that I said, like, you need to kind of know on the top of your mind. This is also one of our 100 templates, depending on which business line you are, right? You can see in one page, So I know exactly how much bank balance I have. So I know I have 1 year exactly to make things happen. I know that I need to raise funds, my fundraising in 3 months' time, because it takes like 6 to 9 or 10 months to fundraise. In fact, it might be much longer this time around as well, right? So like having a system that can help you track this is always useful. Then our friends at Genesis asked me to share like example of how some of our customer actually scale. So I guess this one, if you haven't seen it before, we have actually 36,000 customers, right, in operating in 200 countries, right? These are the functions that we have. I wouldn't go through in detail, but some of the very key one would be like multi-language, multi-currency, right, and consolidation and multi-tax compliance. And this is important for companies that are expanding outside their territory. So almost all the startup we work with tend to be the startup that are scaling very quickly in the country, but also with plans to expand outside of their home country, right? So we actually work with a lot of companies, maybe from even like post Series A all the way until their IPO. Of course, at some point in time, if they continue to grow, they might need to migrate to Oracle Fusion or like SAP or some other larger solution. But actually NetSuite, because we are cloud-based, we can scale with you for quite a long journey, like from Series A to IPO, which is easily 7 years, even for the best companies, right? So we've helped a lot of our clients raise a lot of money. A lot of our clients in US are the listed one, okay. And these are, I think like very large companies that I think all of you would have heard about and know, right? And some of the reason why they really want to work with us, right? And then closer to home, even in Asia, we have more than 100 clients that are listed on across different exchanges, right? And why is it that by then, like say, why this measure, right? It's because like, say if you manage to scale, raise, and by pre-IPO, you really need to make sure that all your systems are in order. So auditable process, accounts are clear, numbers are reliable, right? And so that's why a lot of our clients that might sometimes come to us a bit later tend to be of this profile as well, right? Okay. We also very proud to say we have 50 unicorn clients in Asia. I can't show you their logo, but if you come and speak to me, I'll tell you who they are. So they cover like, we have our unicorn clients. A lot of them are in fintech, logistic, even commerce, gaming. So we have unicorn clients across all segments as well, right? So maybe this is an example how we work with, say, like a very global company. So this one, in fact, I borrowed it from my global team, and they really work, because in the modern day, nothing is single country, right? Sometimes we source from one place. Our client is sitting in 2 different countries and we have to serve them in 2 different countries, right? And we have to ship them out to countries from, ship them from a warehouse in a 3rd country. So these are like very common, this might be how your company look like if not now, in 2 or 3 years time, right? So you need to have like that kind of process to work and make sure that nothing falls in place. Your customer is happy. We remember to invoice the customer. We make it very easy for them to pay us, so they will always pay us on time, right? And we have a good relationship with our suppliers. They know that to ship to our customers. So many pieces. How do we link them all together, right? So this is the role that we hope we can play for you too, right? In terms of financial, again, like if you're doing cross borders, so many tax involved. So yeah, better to have them in one place so that you can monitor, right? Then this one, yeah, okay. So some of our venture-backed clients, I collected what they say. Rukita is a fairly early stage Series A, but they were scaling so fast and they were just using Google Sheets. So they are backed by Sequoia, of course. So yeah. So Angel, their finance team loves our product actually. QF based out of Hong Kong, they do payment and they really appreciate the value of Netsuite when they do their Series D financing. I think it was Series D, because they said before, like, because when you do like fundraising, maybe you have to deal with 30 or 50 investors. Maybe 20 of them ask for your data room and they want to do deep due diligence in the company, right? So if you don't have, say, your financial numbers in order, you end up with a lot of questions like, why is this number not matching? Why you're missing $2 in this account, and etc., right? So if you have a good I think in this process, Terry said he just gave them like view only access on some of the financial data, and instead talked about, okay, how are we going to use the money? Why is it that we need to raise 2 million? And this is where it's going, right? And have that kind of strategic discussion instead of like having the analysts picked up like, oh, there's an error in your projection spreadsheet. It doesn't tally, and all this kind of manual error for manual system. If you use like a lot of Excel and you don't have a proper accounting system, for example, right? Klook's my favorite. Chieh was one of my panelists last year. For them, they really care about the multi-language and multi-currency, right? A lot of system cannot deal with multi-currency, so you might need to set up like many different instances in different countries, which makes sense if you had 2 or 3 countries maybe, but even then you have to consolidate them into a single account, and that might be a lot of effort on the finance team, for example, right? Also, Guzman Gomez, they are very popular Mexican restaurant chain from Australia. So, again, a very loyal client who always shout about how Netsuite has helped them a lot. For those of you in finance or fintech, you will probably heard of Currency Cloud. They were sold to Visa for almost $1 billion, and they were our client from Series B. So we went through 4 rounds with them, right, before they were exit. I'm up to my last slide. This is the last one. So I think if you don't remember anything I said, just these 4 points. 1, always plan ahead and think ahead, right? So I've also seen startup that, they're like, Chieh Suang, like it's a bit pricey, so we just want to use the cheapest solution. We have nothing wrong with that, but can this system still support you in 5 years' time, right? Or 2 years' time, right? So that's the trade-off you need to think of, right? So, and not only in system, right? So you want to think like in 2 or 3 years' time, this is how my company should look like. Like I'm gonna have like 2 more subsidiaries in 2 different countries. Therefore, these are the people that I need to hire and keep. The best people always take a long time to join, right? They join when they are fully convinced that this is the company for them, right? They can grow the potential of the company, right? So as founders, like if you're founders, we are selling vision not only to the investors but also to all these key employees, right? And you'll be surprised, like the ones who really believe in your vision might even take a major pay cut from the big company they are where they are to join you, right? And then process, I talked about it very briefly, like, if I'm serving 10 clients now, what's the process? So how can I change my process to serve 100 companies and 1,000 companies, right? And lastly, like, do I have a scalable system that can still work? Because migration of system is very painful, right? It might be I think for very early stage startup, you're like, there's nothing to migrate. But after you've accumulated like 3 or 4 years of data and you need to move it to another system, it's actually quite painful, right? I think that's all I have for everyone today. This is my email. You can take it down. Feel free to email me. And then back over to my friends from Genesis. Yeah.